The station-wide lockdown sirens were still wailing when Commander Zilax watched 3 Vorxian cubs, each weighing 500 pounds of muscle, claws, and documented lethality, climb onto the human cafeteria workers' table, and she didn't even put down her coffee mug. Armed response. According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Teams to Cafeteria 7 now! Zilax's secondary hands flew across the emergency panel, his primary hands gripping the edge of the security console hard enough to leave dents. Containment breach. Code Apex Red. Vorxian juveniles loose in populated area. Sir! His second-in-command, Ganix, stared at the security feed with all 3 eyes wide. Sir, the human... She's not running. Zilax's head snapped back to the screen. The human. Emma something, cafeteria staff. Unremarkable personnel file. Sat perfectly still at her table while the 3 cubs pressed against her from all sides. Their sensory ridges were fully extended, their crystalline teeth visible, their hunting claws flexing in and out of their paw sheaths. Any rational being would be dead already. Should be dead. Vorxian cubs at this developmental stage had enough bite force to crack starship hull plating. They'd killed trained soldiers during handling accidents. There were 17 documented cases across the galaxy, all fatal within seconds. The human took a sip of her coffee. What is she doing? Zilax demanded. Why isn't she moving? Is she in shock? Get medical team standing by for... Commander. Ganix's voice had gone very quiet. The cubs. Look at their posture. Zilax forced himself to actually observe rather than panic. The cubs weren't in attack position. Their spine clusters were relaxed, not bristled. Their tails were moving. Not the aggressive whip strike he'd seen in training videos, but something else, something that looked almost... Oh, hey guys! The human's voice came through the security feed audio, startlingly casual. Where'd you come from? The largest cub made a sound, not the ear-splitting predatory shriek that preceded kills. A lower rumble, almost musical. It pressed its massive head against the human's shoulder. Sir, I'm reading the cub's biochemistry through the atmospheric sensors, Ganix reported, his voice shaking. Their stress hormones are... They're not hunting. They're not even agitated. The readings match. He trailed off, mandibles clicking in confusion. They match contentment patterns. But that's impossible for juveniles in an unfamiliar environment with an unknown species. The armed response team burst through the cafeteria doors, weapons raised. 60 other species in the cafeteria, Carlix, Sendai, Vortane, all of them, were pressed against the far walls, frozen in terror. Smart. Correct response to apex predators. The human glanced at the security team and raised one hand in a small wave while the other reached up to... Cease fire! Zilax roared into the comms as every weapon in the room targeted the movement. Stand down, do not. Engage. Scratch behind the largest cub's sensory ridge. The cub's eyes closed. Its rear leg started twitching. What? Zilax said slowly. In the burning hells of the core systems is happening right now. The cafeteria doors burst open again. Ambassador Talana practically flew into the room, her diplomatic robes tangled around her legs, her face twisted in an expression Zilax had never seen on a Vorxian. Pure, unfiltered terror. Those are my cubs, she shrieked. Not in standard, but in raw Vorxian, the subsonic frequencies making the walls vibrate. Secure them immediately! Protocol Omega-7, full sedation, emergency extraction. She stopped dead. All 4 of her eyes locked on the security feed now displayed on every screen in the cafeteria. Emma Johnson, age 34, cafeteria server for 6 months, previously worked in food service on Earth, unremarkable file, was methodically scratching each cub in turn while they vied for her attention. You've got to take turns, Emma told the cubs in the same tone someone might use with overexcited puppies. Yes, I know. You're all very impressive and deadly. Very scary. Good job. Now sit. The middle cub sat. Actually sat. Haunches down, front paws together, tail wrapped around legs. Good boy, Emma said, and produced something from her pocket. A piece of... was that cafeteria bread? She tossed it. The cub caught it mid-air and swallowed it whole, making that rumbling sound again. Ambassador Talana made a noise like a malfunctioning plasma drive. They're obligate carnivores. They can't... that will make them sick. They don't eat... The smallest cub nudged Emma's hand with its head, clearly demanding attention. Emma complied, running her fingers along the crest behind its ears while the cub's entire body seemed to melt against her side. "Someone explain this to me right now," Zilax said, his voice deadly calm in the way that made subordinates check their life insurance. "Are Vorxian cubs not the most dangerous juvenile predators in known space? Did I not just authorize 12,000 credits for reinforced containment specifically because standard protocols couldn't hold them?" "They are," Talana whispered. "They are. We lose handlers regularly, full adults with decades of training. Last month a cub killed 3 security specialists when a door malfunction gave it 5 seconds of freedom. 5 seconds, and this human has been sitting with them for 3 minutes and 47 seconds, Ginix supplied helpfully. "They're purring. I didn't know they could purr." "They can't purr!" Talana's bellow made everyone in the command center flinch. "Vorxians don't have purring anatomy. We're apex predators. We conquered 42 worlds. We can't." On screen, all 3 cubs were now draped across Emma's table, over her lap, around her chair. One had its head resting on her shoulder. She was absently patting it while finishing her coffee with the other hand. "Okay," Emma said conversationally to the paralyzed security team. "I'm guessing these guys aren't supposed to be out here?" The response team leader, a Carlix veteran with 17 commendations, could only nod mutely. "Right. So, who do I call to get them back where they belong? Because I've got to clock back in after lunch, and they're kind of blocking my exit." "She wants to clock back in," Zilax repeated flatly. "The human wants to return to serving food." "How is she alive?" Ginix whispered. "Commander, every xenobiological protocol says this is impossible. Cubs that age are non-sapient killing machines driven by instinct. They can't be calmed. They can't be reasoned with. They certainly can't be petted." Emma scratched under the smallest cub's chin. It made a chirping noise, also not in any documentation, and licked her hand with a tongue that could strip flesh from bone. Ambassador Talana was hyperventilating, her breathing spiracles opening and closing rapidly. "I need to speak with a human, immediately. Quarantine protocols. This is a contamination event. She must have pheromones, chemical signals we don't understand. There's no other explanation." "Contamination event protocols initiated," Ginix confirmed. "Sealing cafeteria. Atmospheric analysis running. Biochemical scans of the human subject underway." "And someone?" Zilax added, his voice tight. "Get me the Galactic Xenobiology Council on emergency channels, because either our entire understanding of Oryxian development is catastrophically wrong, or humans have capabilities we need to classify at the highest level." On the security feed, Emma glanced up at the camera with a slight frown. "Is someone going to help me out here, or should I just walk them back myself? They've got collars. I assume they're from somewhere on the station." "She wants to walk them back," Talana said, her voice hollow. "She thinks she can just escort them, like they're domesticated companions. Like they won't tear her apart the moment they get bored or hungry or stimulated by movement." The largest cub yawned, displaying teeth that could shred combat armor, then tucked its head more firmly against Emma's side and closed its eyes. "Patch me through to the cafeteria," Zilax ordered. "Now!" The comm crackled to life. Hello?" Emma said, looking around for the speaker. "Station command?" "Ms. Johnson," Zilax said carefully, the way one might approach an armed explosive. I need you to listen very carefully and do exactly what I say. Do not make any sudden movements. Do not attempt to leave. Do not— Oh, are you worried about the cubs? Emma interrupted. Yeah, they're fine. Just needed some attention. You guys have them locked up alone all day or something? Because that's probably why they escaped. They're bored. Silence on the command center. Bored, Talana repeated. She thinks they're bored. They're babies, right? Emma continued, now scratching 2 cubs simultaneously. Babies need enrichment, socialization. You can't just leave apex predators alone during critical development periods and expect them to be well-adjusted. That's like basic animal behavior stuff. Basic, Zilax said faintly, animal behavior stuff. Yeah, so anyway, if someone could come get them, that'd be great. Or I can walk them back if you tell me where they're supposed to be. They're actually pretty sweet once you— Oh, buddy, no, you can't have my whole sandwich. The security team watched in frozen horror as Emma actually negotiated with a Vorxian cub over lunch meat. The cub accepted a single slice and settled back down, satisfied. Commander, Ginnick said quietly, I think we might have a bigger problem than we thought. What could possibly be bigger than this? According to the human's file, she worked at something called a zoo on Earth for 7 years, in a section labeled Large Carnivores. Zilax felt something cold settle in his gut. Define large carnivores. The data appeared on his screen. Earth bears, Earth tigers, Earth lions, all of them apex predators on a Class 12 death world, and according to the records, Emma Johnson had bottle-fed their young. Get me the Earth Embassy, Zilax said quietly. Right now, because I think we're about to discover why humanity never mentioned what they do with dangerous predators. On screen, Emma yawned and checked her watch, while 3 of the galaxy's most dangerous juveniles used her as a pillow. I really do need to get back to work, she said to no one in particular. The lunch rush is gonna be crazy. The Earth Embassy liaison appeared on screen within 90 seconds, a harried-looking woman with graying hair and deep circles under her eyes. Commander Zilax, I received your emergency. Oh no. Her face went pale as she saw the security feed. Oh no, not again. Again? Zilax's voice could have cut through hull plating. This has happened again. Well, not with Vorxian cubs specifically, the liaison said quickly, but we've had 17 incidents this quarter where humans have, befriended species classified as dangerous apex predators. There was the incident with the Corvaxian war beasts, and the thing with the Xerillian hunting stalkers, and just last week someone in engineering apparently taught a Dralix hive spawn to play fetch. Fetch, Ambassador Talana said, her voice strangled. They're teaching apex predators to play? On screen, Emma had produced a wadded-up napkin and tossed it. All 3 cubs exploded into motion, scrambling over each other to retrieve it. The smallest one won, brought it back to Emma, and dropped it in her lap with clear expectation. Emma threw it again. The cubs chased it again. Miss Johnson, Talana's voice boomed through the speakers. Stop that immediately. You're overstimulating their prey drive. They'll enter hunting frenzy and tear you apart. Emma paused mid-throw and looked up at the camera. Their what? Oh, you mean the prey drive thing? Yeah, no. We're channeling that appropriately through play behavior. It's actually really important for development. Helps them learn bite inhibition, spatial awareness, social boundaries. They don't have social boundaries, Talana shrieked. They're predators. All predators have social boundaries if they're pack animals. Emma said patiently, throwing the napkin again. And these guys are clearly pack-oriented. Look at how they're negotiating turn-taking without actual aggression. That's sophisticated social behavior. The cubs had apparently established some kind of rotation system. Each took turns retrieving while the others waited, occasionally play-bowing at each other. That's not possible, Talana whispered, watching her own offspring behave in ways that violated every paper ever written about her species. We don't. Vorxians are solitary hunters. We've been solitary hunters for 60 million years of evolution. Are your adults solitary? Emma asked, scratching the largest cub's ears. Well, no. We form family units, diplomatic corps, military structures. So you're social. That's different. That's civilization. That's... Cubs are showing you the foundation, Emma interrupted gently. The social behaviors that make civilization possible. You just never looked at it from this angle. Ginix was frantically pulling up every scholarly article on Vorxian development in the database. Commander, she's right. Every study focuses on predatory capability, hunting efficiency, threat assessment. No one's ever researched their social development patterns because the assumption was they didn't have any. They don't, Talana insisted. The smallest cub gently headbutted Emma's hand, a clear request for attention. When Emma complied, the other two waited patiently for their turn instead of fighting for dominance. Huh, Emma said. You know what this reminds me of? We had tiger cubs at the zoo that did the same thing. Of course, we had to rotate handlers because not everyone had the touch for it, but the principles are identical. Actually, she frowned thoughtfully. Do you guys have any enrichment protocols? Puzzle feeders? Climbing structures? Because these babies are definitely understimulated. Puzzle feeders, Zilax repeated. For apex predators. Yeah, keeps them mentally engaged. Prevents destructive behaviors. These guys are obviously smart. Look how quickly they picked up the turn-taking. You're wasting their potential by just... What, keeping them in a box all day? It's a reinforced habitat, Talana protested. With every safety feature, we lose handlers when we don't keep them contained. Because they're bored and frustrated, Emma said matter-of-factly. A bored predator is a dangerous predator, but a properly enriched one. She gestured at the three cubs, now contentedly sprawled around her in various poses of relaxation. Sweet as kittens. Those are not kittens, Talana said weakly. Those are evolutionary perfected killing machines. So are cats, Emma said with a shrug. We domesticated those like 10,000 years ago. Super apex predators on Earth. Literally one of the most successful hunters in the animal kingdom. Now they sleep 20 hours a day on people's furniture and demand treats. The command center fell into stunned silence. You domesticated your apex predators, Zilax said slowly. Most of them, yeah. The ones we didn't domesticate, we figured out how to coexist with. It's really not that complicated once you understand pack dynamics and social bonding. Not that complicated, Ginix echoed faintly. The largest cub had somehow maneuvered its way entirely into Emma's lap, despite weighing 500 pounds. She appeared completely unbothered, one hand resting on its flank while she took another sip of her coffee. So, Emma said brightly, should I bring them back to their habitat, or? Absolutely not, Talana said firmly. You are not walking my cubs anywhere. We're implementing full quarantine protocols and bringing in the sector's chief xenobiologist. This situation is completely unprecedented and potentially... Already here, a new voice announced as the cafeteria doors opened for the third time. Chief Xenobiologist Kael'thas swept in, his scanner array extended. 47 years of expertise evident in every precise movement. I was in the sector for a conference. Someone explain why I'm looking at impossible biochemical readings from... He stopped dead, staring at Emma and the cubs. Oh, good, Emma said. Are you here to take them back? Because I really do have to finish my shift. Kael'thas approached slowly, scanners whirring. That Vorxian cub is in your lap. Yeah, he's pretty cuddly. Vorxian cubs don't cuddle. They don't have the neurological architecture for bonding behaviors outside their immediate genetic family, and even that's limited until maturity. Emma looked down at the cub, which had rolled onto its back and was allowing her to rub its belly, exposing its most vulnerable area to potential attack. You might want to update your research. Kael'thas's scanners went into overdrive. Impossible. The oxytocin analogs in their system, they're bonding with you. Actually bonding. This would require... No. Every model we have says this cannot happen. Models can be wrong, Emma said with a shrug. The middle cub nudged her hand, jealous of the attention the largest was receiving. She accommodated, scratching both simultaneously. Not this wrong. Kyle Thas pulled up holographic displays, pointing frantically at neurological maps. Vorxian emotional development is severely limited in juveniles. They don't develop pack bonding until 16 standard months. These cubs are only 4 months old. Maybe they don't develop it in isolation, Emma suggested. Did anyone ever try, actually socializing them? The silence was deafening. You're telling me, Zilax said carefully over the comm, that in millions of years of Vorxian civilization, no one ever tried playing with their cubs. We handle them professionally, Talana protested. Feeding protocols, health monitoring, safety containment. But no enrichment, Emma said. No play, no socialization outside clinical necessity. They're dangerous. They're babies, Emma corrected. Dangerous babies, sure, but still babies. They need stimulation, interaction, learning opportunities. You can't just warehouse them until they're old enough to be safe. Kael'thas was running scan after scan, his mandibles clicking in agitation. This human is right. Stars help us. This human with no xenobiological training is completely right. We've been approaching juvenile development from a threat management perspective instead of a developmental psychology perspective. I have training, Emma objected mildly. Just not alien-specific. But predators are predators. The basics translate. The basics? Kael'thas gestured wildly at his holograms. These basics are rewriting 47 years of my career. Do you understand how many species we've studied using frameworks that are apparently completely wrong? Emma made the cubs perform sit again, then down, then, impossibly, shake, where each cub lifted a paw to tap her hand. Yeah, I can see how that'd be frustrating. Want me to write up some notes? I've got protocols from the zoo that might help. She has protocols, Talana said, her voice hollow. Earth has protocols for managing apex predator development. Centuries worth, the Earth liaison supplied helpfully from the screen. Dating back to pre-spaceflight history. We've been doing this since we lived in caves and domesticated wolves. You domesticated wolves? Kael'thas looked like his worldview was actively crumbling. Persistence predators with complex pack dynamics and you just decided to make them pets? Dogs, Emma corrected. Yeah, best friends, really. Very useful. Great companions. The smallest cub had fallen asleep on Emma's foot. The other two were drowsing, completely comfortable in her presence. I need to contact the Galactic Xenobiological Council, Kael'thas said faintly. We need emergency symposiums, multiple species committees, a complete review of our developmental frameworks. This is the biggest paradigm shift in xenobiology since we discovered convergent evolution patterns. Cool, Emma said. But seriously, can someone show me where these guys live? I clock back in 15 minutes and my supervisor's gonna kill me if I'm late again. She's worried about her supervisor, Gnix observed. Not the apex predators using her as furniture. Different priorities. Zilax muttered, watching his entire understanding of xenobiology collapse in real time. Humans have very different priorities. I'll escort you, Talana said quietly, something fundamental shifting in her posture. To the habitat. I need to see this. Emma stood carefully, managing not to disturb the sleeping cub too much. It woke, yawned, showing all those deadly teeth, and immediately moved to follow her. The other two fell in line, flanking her like an honor guard. The security team parted like water. They're healing, Kael'thas breathed, following with his scanners. Without commands, they've established her as pack leader and are following standard formation protocols that we didn't even know existed. The walk through the station corridors was surreal. Emma strolled along, hands in her pockets, while 3 of the galaxy's most dangerous juveniles trotted beside her like well-trained dogs. Behind them, Ambassador Talana, Commander Zilax, Chief Xenobiologist Kael'thas, and a growing crowd of scientists documented every second. So how long have they been isolated? Emma asked conversationally. Since hatching, Talana admitted. Standard protocol. Separation prevents, We thought it prevented aggressive imprinting. It prevents all imprinting, Emma said. They're probably desperate for any kind of social connection. That's why they escaped. Not to hunt, but to find interaction. Babies need that. It's neurological, cross-species consistent. Cross-species consistent, Kael'thas repeated, fingers flying over his datapad. If that's true, we need to review juvenile protocols for 1,700 species immediately. They reached the habitat, a sterile, reinforced space with feeding mechanisms and safety barriers, but nothing that looked remotely engaging. Emma's face fell. Oh no! Oh guys! This is awful! It's state-of-the-art containment, Talana protested. Every safety feature, reinforced walls, automated feeding. It's a prison, Emma said flatly. No wonder they broke out. There's nothing here. No stimulation, no enrichment, no comfort. She turned to Talana. Do you keep your own children in rooms like this? Of course not. My children have toys, learning materials, family interaction. Talana stopped. Oh, yeah, Emma said softly. Oh. The cubs were pressing against Emma's legs, clearly reluctant to return to the empty space. We can fix this, Emma said, her tone shifting to something professional. We'll need climbing structures. They're clearly arboreal capable given those claws. Puzzle feeders to engage their problem solving. Rotation of textures and scents for sensory enrichment. And most importantly, scheduled socialization, multiple times daily. With humans? Talana asked. With whoever they bond with. But yeah, probably humans, at least initially. We've got the institutional knowledge. Emma crouched down, making herself eye level with the cubs. You guys want to go back in if we make it better? Add some fun stuff? The largest cub chirped, that same sound from earlier, and nuzzled her face. I'm taking that as a yes. Emma stood. Ambassador, I'll need authorization to modify the habitat. Commander, I'll need a budget for materials. And Chief Kael'thas, I'll need you to stop looking at me like I just invented fire. You essentially did, Kael'thas said. For xenobiology, you walked in here with zoo experience and casually solved problems we've had for millennia. Not solved, Emma corrected. Just applied existing knowledge differently. Earth's been doing behavioral enrichment for centuries. We wrote the book on it, literally. Multiple books. They're probably in the station's database under animal husbandry or zoological management. Xilax was already pulling up the database. There are 3,417 texts, dating back to Earth year 1752, all of them freely available. We've had access to this information the entire time, Talana said weakly. We just never thought to look, Kael'thas finished. Because the idea that humans might have relevant expertise about dangerous predators seemed... He trailed off. Insane? Emma supplied helpfully. Yeah, I get that a lot. But we're from a Class 12 death world. We've been dealing with things that want to eat us since before we invented agriculture. You kind of figure stuff out. The cubs were now investigating the habitat entrance, clearly waiting for permission. Go ahead, Emma told them. They bounded inside, immediately exploring every corner of their space. Probably planning escape routes, she noted mentally. I want them to have better by tomorrow, Talana said firmly. Whatever it takes. And Ms. Johnson, I want to hire you as a consultant. I've still got my cafeteria shift, Emma pointed out. Not anymore, Xilax said. You're reassigned, effective immediately. New position, Xenobiological Developmental Specialist. Triple your current pay. Emma blinked. Can I still get the employee cafeteria discount? 3 weeks later, Emma was installing climbing structures in the cub's now completely redesigned habitat when her comm chirped. Ms. Johnson, we have a situation. She sighed. What kind of situation? The Corvaxian war beast juveniles are displaying behavioral issues. They've injured 2 handlers and destroyed 3 containment units this month. Emma wiped her hands on her coveralls while the Vorxian cubs, now visibly healthier, more engaged, and according to Talana, disturbingly affectionate, played with their new puzzle feeder. Let me guess, she said. Nobody's playing with them. Silence on the comm. They're war beasts, Miss Johnson. They're babies, Emma corrected, grabbing her toolkit. Send me the habitat specs. I'll be there in 20. Behind her, the largest cub chirped hopefully. Emma turned back and scratched behind its sensory ridge. Not this time, buddy. Different species, different protocols. But I'll visit after. The cub settled, content with the promise. As Emma headed for the door, she could hear Zilax updating station insurance premiums again. Through the comm, Kael'thas was already organizing another emergency. Xenobiology Symposium. Just another Tuesday on a space station that was slowly learning what humans had known for millennia. Even apex predators need someone to care. Emma smiled and went to make friends with something that could kill her. Again.